Hi everyone, it's Elizabeth here. So today I just wanted to do this relationship number 11 video in regards to how to see the silver lining in any breakup. So whether you're going through a breakup or a divorce or you kind of lost the love of your life, whether from a breakup or something like a death, that's really tragic as well. There's always a silver lining to these breakups. I know that I've learned a lot in my life from every relationship, long term and short term, that I've had, in addition to going through a divorce that completely changed my life perspective on a lot of things. And the irony of something like going through divorce is, dating people today, I'm completely aware that it's a red flag for a lot of people. But the reality is, sometimes divorced people are great individuals to date because the ones who've done the work and learned their lessons are really, really advanced in the world of love and relationships and understand what it takes to make things cultivate and work and to make things a very trustworthy, positive relationship. So I think I'm going to do another video on that. But I think we've all gone through really tragic, heartbreaking stories through our life. A tragic heartbreak could be like the love of your life walking out of your life because you took them for granted and didn't pay them any attention, to other tragic stories where people have suffered things like abuse, whether that be spiritual, physical, emotional, sexual abuse, anything like that. So the thing is, from one spiritual perspective, there is that thought that we have soul contracts, that we meet certain people throughout our life to learn various lessons. I know, at least in my life, I have had this pattern that I had in college where it's like I kind of prepped men from boyhood to manhood, and whoever they met, whenever we broke up, or like one person I was kind of like dating prior to moving to Australia, and he met another person while I was gone, they ended up marrying that woman and having children with them. And so I took this really offensively because I was like, oh my God, like it was like, why is this always happening to me? But to some degree, there was a huge learning lesson. It was like, well, I'm kind of like, I was a teacher to some degree in these guys' life, but I also learned a lot from them as well. I was just a little bit at a higher level, a little bit more advanced, and things like that at that point in time of being like in between the ages of 19 and 22, 23 years old. So I'm kind of going to come full circle here. I do this a lot, but I had a conversation with a Mormon woman who lives in my apartment, and we were just talking about relationships and how the dating world today is so different. And she was talking to me about her son, who technically is Mormon, but she was explaining that, once he started getting a lot of money from his promotions at work, he started to fall back and lose his connection toward his faith. And throughout this time of his marriage, I don't know the details, but he and his wife had issues, and she was fed up with certain things and left him. And he was having a conversation with his mother, who is the woman I was speaking with, and she told her son, and I thought this was a very wise thing. She said, we all thought of your potential as being this, great biologist or whatever. But she goes, maybe what we misunderstood was that it was your potential and your spirituality. And it took his wife walking out of his life to realize all the crap that he's done. And it made him change his life completely in a 180 circle. And so it's a horrible, hard learning lesson, but that is a silver lining. It's like it took an actual breakup for this man to change his life. And I've seen this with other friends. Sometimes it does take somebody walking out of the life in that tragic breakup in order for that person to change or to actually get help for their situation, because they become comfortable. Like the other person just accepts their flaws and or accepts, this certain standard of being treated a certain way that, people just kind of hang around because it's comfortable, and then it finally becomes like a breaking point or like a volcano. Once things erupt, then the other person kind of learns their lessons to move on. So even if you've suffered really like hardship, like sexual abuse, I mean, I've never been through that, so I can't speak from it from a personal perspective. I can't even imagine what that feels like in terms of healing. So it's regardless of if you're a man or a woman and suffered sexual abuse, because men suffer it too. The soul is challenged in certain ways, and there are these learning lessons that come from these experiences. So if somebody suffered sexual abuse but then met the love of their life, there is a silver lining to that, because maybe that hardship of going through that horrible life experience is what led them to like the best thing that ever came into their life. So I don't know in what direction to take this video. I'm kind of like flying by the seat of my pants here on this thought, but wherever you're at in your life, if you can pull yourself from the victimhood mentality and really self-examine your behavior, your situation, and that breakup, and understand the 2 points of views, then we can better assist and help ourselves to grow personally and help ourselves for the next relationship or situation that comes in life. Life is so interesting nowadays, and there are a lot of things that happen spiritually that it's just unexplained. Spiritual experiences sometimes cannot be understood by the logical and rational mind. It is very non-linear. A very linear approach is having a very logical approach through life. Like, you go to high school, you go to college, you meet somebody, you get married, you have a baby, you buy a house, da da da. Like, that's a very linear approach. A very non-linear approach would be somebody who, I don't know, like, gets a divorce, loses their job, they go traveling, and then somehow along the way they meet like the love of their life. Like, there's no way to explain that from a logical point of view. It just, sometimes these things happen. So where I'm coming at with this kind of self-examining thought is that the more you develop yourself, not only personally, this is going to be a spiritual development as well. So it raises your vibration. It's like graduation. We graduate from high school, we graduate from college, from graduate school, from, a PhD. We go through these graduations in life, and that is the same thing that happens in the spiritual world. You go through graduations. Each person in your life has been some form of graduation. It just depends, and each experience, hopefully you start attracting better people, because it's like your vibration is better and you've learned your lessons to where rationally and logically you can start to choose better partners. A lot of times some people are so blinded by superficial fantasies or by certain things, like a man can be very captivated by a woman's beauty and she's like a fucking mermaid and she'll destroy you. Just so he's like so focused and fixated on that physical piece that he's completely ignoring like everything else that's going on. And it's the same for the other way. Like, a lot of women are very much attracted to like high power men who have a lot of money and they're status driven. They drive a nice car, they wear really nice clothes, so their presentation is really nice, but most likely those type of guys are horrible human beings. They're out, sleeping around and treating every other girl this way. So you have to kind of use logic as well as rational thoughts with spiritual understanding of certain situations that happen in your life. I think I'm going to do a different video on this, but I do have a book. It's called Love Cards, and it is kind of about the karma that we experience in this life based on your birth date. And the one thing that spiritual tool, like, I'm a 5 of spades, and so that book told me if those who walk out of your life, or like the relationships that are taken from you, are seen as points of graduation. And so it's like that information helped me sit in the moments of these hardships and breakups, heartbreaks in my life, especially when it came to my marriage, because I was at the point where I was so thankful for having this guy in my life. Like, I don't know why I reached some pivotal point of gratitude on a flight home from Germany, and then 2 days later, the rug was pulled out from underneath me, and I had psychic visions of a hand holding up a diploma, and there was a voice that, talked into my brain that said, like, you graduated, you get it now. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, no, 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 no. And, anyway, so that I just wanted to briefly share that as an example. It's not like a, oh, me type of situation, but I guess I'm using my life experiences for people to help them along the way. So it sucks. Like, if you screwed up and someone you loved walked out of your life because you're being stupid or you're taking them for granted, it is absolutely horrible. But you know what? You can learn your lessons to never take another person for granted in your life ever again. I've never online dated, but I've only met people naturally, and meeting people naturally today is such a precious gift from God, because it's so difficult it's easy to meet people, but it's also difficult, especially because everybody is online these days. So it's like that union of two people meeting, regardless of if it works out or not, should not be taken for granted at all. So I want you, I guess, I don't know if I want you, but I'm challenging you, if you're in a hardship in your life, or still suffering from a breakup, or still stuck from some past relationship that's left you 5 years ago, you need to understand that there is a positive side to this. Destruction and creation are not separate entities. They are one thing. When you fall and hit rock bottom, you can pick yourself back up and continue on your path. And that's the same with heartbreak. Life in human history is full of tragic love stories. I have now another love story in the stars of human history, as well as I'm sure like 80% of the viewers that will watch this video. We all do. It's horrible, it's sad, but the more we can develop ourselves personally as well as spiritually, we can learn from these things to better set ourselves up for a brighter future and with better partners as well. One final thought I'll share on this is I think a lot of people are so confused between love versus lust. I watched a video about a guy, like the type of woman you should marry, and as I was analyzing this man's thoughts, he was talking about how he's met women on paper who would be really great for him, but he was so infatuated by this like hot Colombian woman, and he kind of, the way he talked about her was almost like she was a piece of possession. And, she ended up dumping him, and I'm like, good for fucking her, because, like, she probably wasn't getting treated that well, or he was just so blown away, like, by the lust and the sex and her beauty, that it's like, if that's all he cared about for her, he might not, we don't know the details, he might not have cared about her as an actual human being, that she was just more of this, like, prized possession, like, wow, look at this beautiful Colombian woman. And so my point with that was these men in that video did not understand. They were not evolved enough to use not only their higher faculties in their mind, but they weren't evolved spiritually to realize, like, wow, this woman that life granted me, who would make a great mother for my children. I mean, if he couldn't get over that, and though she was like maybe an average looking person, if you can't develop some form of physical or sexual attraction based on the love that somebody shares from you, then that's kind of your problem, and they're not developed. Like, that person is just not developed, and they're not ready for a long-term commitment or a relationship or a marriage if they can't overcome the lust-driven things. So yeah, analyze what has happened in the past from a spiritual and a logical lens. It's really hard to do, especially if you're atheist and you don't believe in spirituality or God by any means. But yeah, I don't know. Take a look, see what you find. It's kind of interesting. But these are some thoughts that I have. If you have any thoughts or situations yourself, I'd love to read them in the comment box. And yeah, if you would like, please support me on Patreon, or you can just support me by subscribing to this channel. Thank you for liking, sharing, subscribing. Anything you can do to help me build this is much appreciated. All right, guys, have a great day. Bye.